Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Caboose XP. I'll bring you another Injustice 2 video, and today what I got for you guys is another installment of the Q&A series, the series in which you guys send in your questions about Injustice 2 using the hashtag AskCaboose, whether that be on my Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or in the comment section of this video that you're watching right now. So if you want to get a question in for a future installment, just make sure you use the hashtag AskCaboose when you're typing your question, and that way I know that you're looking to be a part of the Q&A series. Before we get into the questions that we have at hand today, I just want to ask you guys if we can get this video to 1,500 likes. I would really appreciate it, and it shows your support and lets me know that you guys want to see more and more episodes of this series showing up in the future. So with all that out of the way, let's jump into the first question that we have at hand today for Injustice 2. Now, the first question of the day comes from Twitter, and I'm probably mispronouncing this, and this is from the Twitter at UN Saged Gamez. I don't know why anyone would ever call themselves that ever, but they asked, didn't you do a Q&A like 3 days ago? Hashtag AskCaboose. Yes, I did, and I'm doing one again because I like to. So, Mr. UN Saged Gamez, or whatever your name is, none of your business, alright? Next question, coming from Twitter as well, and this is from Adam Ka, and they ask, hashtag AskCaboose, do you think there will be a DLC storyline? So that means you could either continue the game or play a prequel to it. Now, this is actually a pretty interesting question because I never really considered the thought of the idea of DLC for Injustice 2, but having some sort of continuing story, or maybe a separate story that really doesn't have anything to do with the core story of Injustice 2. That way, you know, considering that it's going to end up being like a paid DLC thing, not too many people will be upset about not buying it or having it being locked behind a paywall, because it's not completely essential to play this DLC to know what's going on with the story of Injustice 2 overall. And to be honest, I've never really considered this idea, having a DLC story where it's something outside of Injustice 2, maybe a prequel or something like that, as you are mentioning, and I think that would actually be pretty cool, because there's one thing that's always happening with a NetherRealm story mode, is that every character of the roster of the game never really ends up having something to do in the Injustice story or in the Mortal Kombat story, whatever it may be. So I'm assuming in Injustice 2 storyline, there's probably going to be a couple of characters in the main roster that really don't have any part of the story or have anything to do in the story. So what if we did get some sort of DLC storyline that had something to do with those characters that really don't do much in the main storyline of Injustice 2? But again, considering that it won't be connected to the main story of Injustice 2, it's not like it's essential to play this DLC storyline to understand what's going on in the overarching story of Injustice 2. So thank you for your question, Adam. And now moving on, the next question is coming from Instagram, and this is from JackAttack18, and they go, hashtag AskCaboose. If Captain Cold is in the game, do you think he'll have pure ice powers like in the New 52, or have his gun? Now, as we all know, Captain Cold was on the Injustice 2 leaked roster, and it's looking likely that he is going to be in the game. Dr. Fate was just recently revealed, and we saw that his helmet was on the Injustice 2 t-shirt, and we've also seen that Captain Cold's gun was on that same t-shirt, as well as seeing Captain Cold's gun during the beginning of some of the previous Injustice 2 trailers. So it's almost safe to assume at this point that he is going to be in Injustice 2. But just off of that assumption, is Captain Cold going to have his New 52 powers where he has the ice hands and everything like that, and where he's like a metahuman? Or is he going to be like the traditional Captain Cold where he just has a freeze gun? Well, I think it's pretty safe to assume that he is probably going to have the cold gun, considering that we've seen the cold gun in the promotional material for Injustice 2 and on the Injustice 2 t-shirt. What I really would have liked to have seen is for him to have the ice hands like in the New 52, and then that way a character like Sub-Zero doesn't have to take up a DLC slot and can actually be something like a premier skin for Captain Cold. That would have been the best of both worlds. I would have been totally fine with that, and that's actually what I really wish would have ended up happening. That way we get Captain Cold a part of the roster, he has the freeze hands, and then we get Sub-Zero as a premier skin for the character, so then a Mortal Kombat character is introduced into the game, and it doesn't end up taking up an extra slot. But that doesn't seem like it's going to be the case. It looks like he's going to have the cold gun, considering that we've seen the cold gun on the Injustice 2 t-shirt and during the beginning of some Injustice 2 trailers. So thank you for your question. Now the next question also comes from Instagram, and this is from the Raptor Master, and they ask, hashtag AskCaboose. Do you think Beast Boy will join the main roster, be DLC, or neither? And if Beast Boy is in Injustice 2, how do you think his moveset will be? Now, I think I've answered the second part of your question before in a previous video, but just to reiterate, I definitely would like his moveset to involve him changing into different animals and everything. That would be so cool. I'm sure it's probably a nightmare to animate something like that, especially in video game form, so I don't know how that could be pulled off, but that's what I would like to see. You know, you're mid-combo and you're changing into like a lion or something like that. That would be so awesome. And for ideas that I have for like his trait, maybe it's something similar to Wonder Woman's, where when you activate the trait, you can turn into one of 5 different animals, and you're never really expecting what animal you're going to change into. It's completely random. Each animal has their own specific moves. You got to master each of them, you know, be prepared for whatever animal you might turn into. That would be so cool. The trait is activated for a certain amount of time. I think that would be awesome. But to answer the first part of your question, whether or not Beast Boy is going to be in the main roster, whether he's going to be DLC or not in the game altogether, well, all 3 of those things are definitely a possibility. I mean, there is a chance that he could be in the main roster. As I've mentioned before, it seems like there might be 1 or 2 surprise reveals that weren't on the leaked roster list that we may see for Injustice 2, and hell, Beast Boy could be one of them, although I don't see that being a likely possibility, because I think of the 3 that you just proposed there, him being DLC is the most likely possibility. He is an extremely popular character that a lot of people are requesting, and as I mentioned, his animations for what he can do is probably a nightmare to do, so it would take them a lot more time and a lot more effort, so him being DLC would make sense, you know, considering the additional time it would take for them to animate the character, considering his popularity, and the fact that people would buy the hell out of Beast Boy if he were to be DLC, is why I think that he could be a DLC for Injustice 2 post-launch of the game. However, there is still a possibility that he might not be in the game altogether. I mean, like I mentioned, it's probably a nightmare to animate a character like that. So that said, maybe they couldn't even tackle that. They couldn't even try to implement that kind of animation into the game. So they just said, hey, sorry, he's not going to be in Injustice 2. Although I don't want to put that in anyone's mind. I know that UN Sage Gamez guy, whatever his name is going to be very upset to even hear me saying that Beast Boy might not be in Injustice 2. But there's definitely a chance. But I don't know. I'm holding out hope. I think he's going to be DLC. And who knows? Maybe he'll be a part of the main roster. Like I said, there could be those 1 or 2 surprise reveals. And we're just going to have to wait and see. Now, the next question comes from YouTube. And this is from Batman Beyond. And they ask, #AskCaboose. Would Hal Jordan's construct stay green if there would be a possibility of getting different Lantern Core rings? Or if you were to get a Reverse Flash skin for the Flash, would his lightning stay yellow or turn red? Thank you for your question, and to be quite honest, I think they're going to pay attention to enough detail there, especially with the Green Lantern and changing into the different Lantern colors. They would do something like changing the construct colors as well. Now, how they're going to do that in changing the colors of the Lantern Core for Hal Jordan, I'm assuming it's not going to be premier skins, but instead just shaders, because this way you change your shader into, say, a Red Lantern shader, and all the customization with the gear that you've equipped is still there. You're just now a Red Lantern for Hal Jordan instead of a Green Lantern. And then when you equip this shader, all the constructs for your character change to that color as well. So if I change into a Red Lantern Hal Jordan, my constructs are going to turn to red. Or if I change into an Orange Lantern or a White Lantern or a Black Lantern, whatever it may be, all those constructs end up changing to that specific color. Now, talking about the Flash, I hope they pay attention to that little detail. I know that Ed Boon's favorite character is the Flash, and I'm assuming that he would know something like that about those characters with Reverse Flash and the Flash. You know, the Flash having the yellow lightning, Reverse Flash having the red lightning. So that's what I'm hoping for, but we're just going to have to wait and see. If they don't end up doing the red lightning for Reverse Flash, I'm not going to lose too much sleep over it. It doesn't really matter that much to me. Now, the last question that we have for today comes from YouTube as well, and this is from Mysterious Enigma, and they ask, #AskCaboose, what role do you think Gorilla Grodd's faction, the Society, will have in Injustice 2's story? Now, this is a very interesting question, and for those of you who don't know, Gorilla Grodd is basically going to have this faction known as the Society that's basically outside of the regime and outside of the insurgency, and basically their own faction, their own group that Gorilla Grodd is leading. Now, who's going to be a part of this team? I don't really know. I don't know what's going on with the team, what purpose they have in the story mode, or what they're going to do, what kind of plan they have, but there was a clip during the Here Come the Girls trailer in which we see what seems to be a snippet from the story mode with Catwoman and Harley Quinn, and behind them were a bunch of gorillas. So are they in Gorilla City? Are they working with the Society? Is Harley Quinn some double agent feeding them information about the insurgency? I don't know what's going on. It's very interesting to speculate about, and I want to see what goes down come time Injustice 2's release when we can finally play through the Injustice 2 story mode. And with all that said, that's going to conclude this episode of the Q&A series. Once again, if you want to get your question in for a future installment of the Q&A series, all you got to do is leave your question, whether that be in the comment section of this video or on my social media platforms linked in the description box below, being Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just make sure you use the hashtag AskCaboose in your question. That way I know you're looking to be a part of the Q&A series. With all that said, I'm Caboose XBL. Once again, if we can get this video to 1,500 likes, I would really appreciate it. You can click on screen to make your way to one of the other videos on the channel, or you can click my logo to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Please follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and like me on Facebook. Those links are in the description. Drop a like if you enjoyed, leave a comment if you have an opinion, and subscribe if you're new. See you guys later.